Good evening. We're just going to take another minute to let everybody get settled, and then we'll start in just a moment. Thank you. Okay, good evening again. The hour of 6:30 PM having arrived, I will call to order this regular meeting of the Planning Board. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel. The video will be also be streaming on the city's website and will be posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone wishing to view a copy of the agenda and supporting materials will find it on the city website. To receive electronic copies of future agenda packets, please go to the home page and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The public and other board members will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. Will the staff please conduct the roll?
Harold Farrington,
Here.
Roberta Mastrogiovanni,
Here.
Mayor Jay Khan,
Here.
Councillor Molly Ellis,
Here.
David Bergeron,
Here.
Michael Hafer, Kenneth Cost,
Here.
Andrew Madison, and for the alternate, Stefan Mayu,
Present.
Tammy Adams, and Joey Cosivera. And I believe there is room if you'd like to invite Mr. Mayu to participate as a voting member this evening.
Sure. I would like to invite Mr. Mayhew to participate as a voting member for this evening's meeting. Thank you. Okay, next order of business are the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to move to approve the minutes from the February 23rd, 2026 meeting.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Any questions, comments, changes that anyone identified? I just had one minor Scrivener's error on line 84. The word "if" should be replaced with "of," if I'm reading it correctly. That's the only one I could find. Okay. With that correction, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay. Next on the agenda is a final vote on conditional approvals. Ms. Brenner, do we have any final approvals teed up for tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have one project that's ready for final approval. This is PB-2025-18, modification number 1 for 109 to 147 Key Road, which is the major site plan modifications for the Revo Casino. So, excuse me. There were 3 conditions of approval, including that the owner's signatures appear on the plan, submittal of 5 full-size paper copies and a PDF version of the final plan set, and submittal of a security to cover the cost of as-built plans, landscaping, and erosion control measures. And all 3 of those conditions have been met.
Okay. That was, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was November, from November's meeting?
So This was the modification to their site plan,
The
which was
modification. Okay,
last month.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mary, I'm having a hard time hearing, I don't know if it's the post or maybe the control room. What is the project? 2025-18, I got that far.
Yes, sorry, this is PB-2025-18, modification number 1. So the motion would be move to issue final approval
Yeah, but
for.
what is the project? I got
Oh, this was the
number.
modifications to the Revo Casino that included, so, Mr. Mayor, you and the chair recused yourself from this application. It was it's mostly about the vestibule that they're creating. And they're doing facade improvements, some minor landscaping changes, and some traffic pattern modifications interior to the site. And they also had to add some impervious surface in one area, so they removed it from another area of the site. So this wasn't the change of use, this was
You're right.
them coming
So
in
this
after
is-
the change of
this
use.
is
for
Key
some-
Road.
Yep,
Thank you.
yeah,
That's what I need.
okay.
So is it safe to assume the mayor and I should also recuse ourselves from the final vote?
So that would be consistent, yes.
Okay. Do you think it's necessary for us to sit in the audience?
I mean, no, I don't think so,
Okay.
since it's an administrative vote.
But I'll turn it over to Roberta.
Is the motion in the packet? Because I don't see it.
No, it's not, because this wasn't in the final
Just
approval
final
memo,
approval for
because they met their conditions of
2025-18.
approval after the packet went out. But the motion would be to move to issue final approval for PB-2025-18, modification number 1.
Okay, then, I would like to move.
Second.
Okay. Do I need to read it? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. That's been seconded.
Just need to ask for any discussion or question.
Any further discussions on the motion? Okay, that being said, we move to vote on it. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, looks like it's unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Master Giovanni. Okay. Now we have a public hearing tonight. The public hearing is PB-2026-04, Congregate Living and Social Services Conditional Use Permit, 268 West Street. Applicant Keene Serenity Center, on behalf of owner Koritsky LLC, proposes to operate a group resource center in an existing commercial space on the property of 268 West Street. Tax map plat number 576-010-000 for day program recovery services, including groups, trainings, and activities. There are no changes proposed to the building exteriors or site. The parcel is 5.3 acres in size and is located in the Commerce District. Okay. I would like to ask staff if they have a recommendation for completeness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant requests exemptions from submitting all plans, elevations, and technical reports. Staff have made the preliminary determination that granting the requested exemptions would have no bearing on the merits of this application and recommend the board accept it as complete.
Thank you, Mr. Clements. Why don't we have a motion on completeness, get us going?
I would like to move to see the application as complete.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. All right, any discussion, comments?
I'm from Keene Serenity Center. The only thing I'm questioning is the address. On our contract with Koritsky LLC, it says 294 West Street.
Yeah, I noticed that both of those were in the packet, but,
I just want to make sure it's all above water.
yep, thank you for pointing that out. Mr. Clement, do you have any elaboration on the address?
Yeah, we have that shopping plaza as the common address that you listed in that legal language. I'm not sure if specific units have numerical common addresses. I know some of them are signified with like a unit A or B or things like that. So this language just is really referring to the entire shopping complex parcel, and that's further specified by the TMP number. So from identifying the subject property and legal notice, it's all above board.
Yeah, thank you. So it is uniquely identified by the TMP number. Good. Okay, so let's return to where we were, which is the discussion of completeness. Any comments? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of finding PB 2026-04 as complete, please indicate. Any opposed? Okay. The application is deemed complete. Okay, at this point, at this time, I would invite the applicant to present on the proposal.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Todd Skillinger. I am a person in long-term recovery, and what that means is since October 10th of 2006, I gave my mom back her son. I am currently the co-chair, executive director, with Emma Seamer of the Keene Serenity Center. Our executive director had a medical issue. He shall be returning to us April 1st. So this is all new to me. I'm not sure what I'm presenting, but I can tell you a little bit about the center, and if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer them. We're a recovery center. We started in 2013 on Water Street, on Carpenter Street, and which is now another recovery center called Yana, You Are Not Alone. We left that center and went over to Vernon's Mechanic Street for a short stint, across the street from the kitchen. And then we were over here on Vernon Street for a little over 2 years, and we recently moved into the West Street Plaza. We're a recovery center. We honor all pathways to recovery, helping people find their pathways. We practice recovery coaching through CCAR, which is a Connecticut-based coaching academy. We have a staff of 5. The executive director, 6 and 5 coaches. They've all gone through trainings. 2 of them are certified with the state of New Hampshire as CRSW, Certified Recovery Support Workers. The other 3 are in process of getting that certification. We hold an open, safe environment for people to have their recovery meetings. Right now, we have a Thursday night meeting once we're all set to go with it for Narcotics Anonymous. They'll be in our building. We also do small events. We have a Recovery Rocks, which is open mic night, invite the public in. A lot of people in recovery will come in and play music. In between sets, we'll do karaoke. We work closely with the Community Kitchen, Love Thy Neighbor Ministries out of Swansea, Tiny Tummies here in Keene, and other organizations as partners. And we hope to serve the community.
Thank you. Do board members have questions for the applicant? Mayor Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that the organization has been incredibly resilient to have had several locations over time and still maintain a strong client base. I guess I'm wondering, now that you've found this new home, have you seen an uptick in people using the services that you are providing at the location?
Without this permit, it was my understanding that we wouldn't be able to actually service people in the building. but we have seen an uptick.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
There we go. Is that on now? We have seen an uptick. We also do transportation. We provide free transportation to people in recovery or seeking recovery. And we do medical assisted treatment transportations every morning. We recently purchased a larger vehicle, a 16-passenger van, and we went from transporting 12 people a day to 18 people a day now with this van, 6 days a week, year-round. And so those numbers have grown, and the number of people calling for services and stopping in has been increasing. Even though we're not open yet, we have been doing telephone recovery services and meeting people like over at Fritz's for coffee and talking with them there. I see this as a positive move for both the community and us because it is out in the open. We're not tucked down in an alleyway like we were before, and it gives us an opportunity to meet more people where they are.
I will say, driving into that plaza over the weekend and seeing your facilities, the signage, and yes, the visibility is remarkably greater. A good thing, I think, for our community.
Thank you.
I would certainly echo that. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for your time.
At this time, I'll invite staff for the staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Evan Clements, Planner, Zoning Administrator. The subject property is an existing 5.3-acre shopping plaza located on the south side of West Street, at the southwest corner of the West Street and Island Street intersection. The property contains 2 commercial buildings, 1 standalone building with one multi-tenant building. The standalone building currently contains a CVS pharmacy. The multi-tenant building contains a variety of retail and office uses, including Total Fitness Equipment, US Cellular, and Gemini Screen Print. The existing site contains 181 parking spaces, drive aisles, access points on both West Street and Island Street, and other associated site improvements customary of a shopping plaza. The purpose of this application is to obtain a congregate living and social services conditional use permit to allow for a group resource center to operate within an approximately 1,500 square foot tenant space located in the multi-tenant building. The unit contains 2 office spaces, a conference room for groups and trainings, 2 bathrooms, and a common area. The applicant states in their narrative that there is no outdoor space available for their use. Keene Serenity Center generally operates Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., with occasional night and weekend activity. These activities are usually less than 2 hours long. There are 5 full-time and 2 part-time staff members, as well as several volunteers. Per Section 515 of the Land Development Code, this use is permitted in the Commerce District, subject to the issuance of a congregate living and social services conditional use permit, which the applicant seeks before you this evening. Regarding regional impact, staff has made a preliminary evaluation that this proposal does not appear to have the potential for regional impact. However, the board will need to make a final determination on that. At this point, I'm going to go through the congregate living conditional use permit criteria. In this case, the site development standards in Article 21 are not going to be evaluated with this application, as no exterior modifications to the site are being proposed at all. So regarding the congregate living criteria, A, the nature of the proposed application is consistent with the spirit and intent of the zoning regulations, this LDC and the city's comprehensive master plan, and complies with all applicable standards in the LDC for this use in Section 834. The applicant has stated in their narrative that the Keene Serenity Center provides peer support services for individuals experiencing substance use disorder and incorporates support with family members and support staff. Recovery coaching is proposed by certified staff and trained support specialists. It appears that this use will operate similar to an office use, which is permitted within the Commerce zoning district. There is no specific use standards in Article 8 for a group resource center, besides obtaining the conditional use permit and a license. So it appears that that standard has been met. The next standard is the proposed use will be established, maintained, and operated so as not to endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant states that the use will operate safely in a manner that will not endanger public health, safety, or welfare. The door will be locked outside business hours, and a security camera will be utilized inside the unit. The existing shopping center has accessible walkways and entrance facilities that will remain unchanged. The center does not offer housing, and many clients are not on site for longer than an hour or so. Staff will be present during all operating hours, so staff believes that this standard has been met. The next standard is the proposed use will be established, maintained, and operated so as to be harmonious with the surrounding area and will not impede the development, use, or enjoyment of adjacent property. In addition, any parking lots, outdoor activity areas, or waiting areas associated with the use shall be adequately screened from adjacent properties and from the public right-of-way. The applicant states that the use will be operated in a respectful manner and does not impact adjacent tenants in the shopping plaza. The site itself is a fully developed, large multi-tenant commercial plaza, and the proposed use will operate in a manner similar to adjacent uses. Impacts to surrounding uses or properties would be the same as other permitted retail and office uses in the district. Waiting areas will be located within the tenant space. The large existing parking lot containing 181 parking spaces is screened from the public right-of-way and adjacent properties with rows of perennial shrubs and trees. The existing buildings also provide screening from adjacent properties. Staff believes this standard has been met. The next standard, the proposed use will be of a character that does not produce noise, odors, glare, and/or vibration that adversely affects the surrounding area. The applicant states that all activities of the proposed use will be located indoors and will not generate any noise, odors, glare, or vibration outside of normal office activity. It appears that this standard has been met. Next standard, the proposed use will not place an excessive burden on public infrastructure, facilities, services, or utilities. The proposed use is located within an existing shopping plaza with adequate water, sewer, and transportation facilities. That standard is met. The proposed use will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be significant, natural, scenic, or of historic importance. Again, no new development is proposed as part of this application. It is all going to be located within an existing shopping plaza. That standard has been met. The proposed use will not create a traffic safety hazard or a substantial increase in the level of traffic congestion in the vicinity of the use. The proposed use is located within an existing shopping plaza with adequate connection to West Street and Island Street. The proposed use is not anticipated to increase traffic in a substantial way that would cause congestion in the vicinity of the use. Due to clients utilizing the shuttle service provided, as well as access to pedestrian facilities, the traffic generation for the proposed use in real terms may be less than a permitted retail or office use of similar size. It appears that this standard has been met. The proposed use will be located in proximity to pedestrian facilities, multi-use trails and sidewalks, public transportation, or offer transportation options to its client population. As I just mentioned, and as the applicant stated, they do have private transportation facilities that they offer, including 2 shuttle buses, and then West Street is equipped with pedestrian facilities such as sidewalks and crossing lights. So this standard appears to be met. That's all I have. The recommended motion can be found on page 21 of your packet. And staff has recommended that the board grant final approval for this application this evening with a single condition subsequent to final approval stating that the applicant shall obtain all required state and local permits and approvals. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clements. Questions for staff? Mayor Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The conditional use permit, does that assure the public that on an annual basis this is going to come back for, what makes this conditional?
That's a great question. The name is a little confusing. Some states refer to these as a special permit or a special use permit. In New Hampshire, we call them conditional use permits, which basically means that the use is not allowed by right, it's allowed under specific conditions. And so those specific conditions are laid out in the ordinance, and it requires coming to the planning board to receive this conditional use permit. So that's why we're here this evening. If this was a more traditional office use, for example, they wouldn't need to come before you this evening. But because this is considered a congregate and social services use, it falls under that umbrella that requires the CUP. Does that answer your question?
Most of it.
Yeah, I think he was
Is
asking
this
more about
is this a one and done?
license.
Yes, this is they will not need to come back every year for a new CUP, provided they stay in the same location. One of our triggers for getting a new conditional use permit is when the use moves to a new location. So the Serenity Center had to get a CUP for their Vernon Street location, and they're back here before you again because they've moved. The Congregate Living and Social Services license is an annual license that they apply for initially and then needs to be renewed every year. That's a different board and a different time.
Very good, thank you.
Other questions? I have not really a question, but just I do find myself in that plaza frequently. And I would just mention that there's almost never there is a roadway behind this, this office space that they're in, that part of the building. And most people don't ever stop or look. So I would just say that please try to be careful when when folks are using that, because people do kind of go kind of every which way on that, in that parking lot. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Clements. At this time, I'll invite the public. Anyone from the public here to comment or ask a question regarding this proposal? Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting, and we'll move to deliberation, which will start with a motion.
Move to issue the final approval for PB 2026-04 as shown in the application and supporting materials received on February 10, 2026, with the following condition subsequent to final approval. 1. The applicant shall obtain all required state and local permits and approvals.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Questions, comments, opinions? Regional impact, maybe?
Yeah,
Mr. Cost?
I would say this project has no regional impact.
Thank you. Other comments? You trying to buzz in or no?
no, I'm just to say, just to say that I think whatever impacts there are positive. And, I think this, as explained, satisfies the conditions of approval.
I should have thought of this before, but has your mission changed with the various moves?
No, this is actually the first place we were able to put our mission up on the wall. And no, it hasn't changed. It has stayed, it did go through a change in 2019, but it has stayed the same for the last 7 years.
Okay, great, thanks. And I agree with the mayor that I think it's a significant net positive for the community, and appreciate what you're doing. All right, any other comments? Let's call the vote. All those in favor of final approval on, PB 2026-04? All those in favor? Any opposed? Final approval is issued. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Sure. Thanks for what you do. Just a quick question for staff. The next agenda item, is that a public hearing or that's just a board deliberation?
Yeah, that's not a public hearing. It'll just be a presentation by staff, and then you can move to the vote. You're always welcome to take public comment, but I don't think we have anyone here, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on then to discussion of the capital improvement program for 2027 to 2033. Hopefully everyone's gotten their book and has had a chance to look through it. And I'll turn the microphones over to you folks.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Chamberlain, the Finance Director, and joined by Don Lucier, the Public Works Director. Just tonight, we wanted to give you a little overview. I hope everybody does have their book, finally. Just wanted to give you a little overview of the CIP process and what's included, and just some important things to look at within the book, just to give you a kind of an overview of the program in total. So the basis for our capital improvement program is our comprehensive master plan and our city council goals. That lays the foundation for all of the decisions in the CIP. And it's a very involved process. It starts with department meetings with the city manager and the finance department. Each department goes through their proposals for the CIP. It moves from that into a CIP kickoff, which is open to the public and is also open to city councilors to go. They actually have presentation boards so that it gives the opportunity to walk around and meet with each one of the departments and understand what the projects are, and basically try to figure out when the project's anticipated to happen, what the cost is. So it really just discusses the variables with each project. From that process, we have special finance, organization, and personnel committee meetings. The departments then do another presentation. Public is also welcome to attend those meetings just to gain some additional insight. We also have had a public hearing just last week before. And then, of course, we are here to meet with you. And then it does go to the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee meeting for a recommendation on Thursday of this week, and then to the full City Council for a vote next week. The CIP process, it's a balancing act. While we want to make sure that we are investing in the infrastructure of our community, we also need to maintain the affordability for our taxpayers. We give a lot of consideration to the timing of various projects, as well as the funding sources that we have available. We certainly try to obtain grant funding as often as possible, just, to maintain that affordability. Through the careful evaluation and analysis, we want to make sure that we're able to ensure long-term sustainability for the city of Keene. The CIP program is reviewed on a biannual basis, but we actually review it annually internally. Especially the first 2 years of the CIP program are really kind of at the forefront, because right after the adoption of the CIP, the 2027 plan is what we're going to look to incorporate into our fiscal year 27 operating budget proposal. We've already started having our department meetings for the operating budget, so there's going to be a little bit of an overlap there. But we need to make sure that through the CIP process, as well as our operating budget process, that we are meeting our fiscal policy guidelines, specifically with regards to our debt funding and our unallocated fund balance. So I think that covers most of the kind of high-level overview of the process. And I just wanted to bring your attention to...
Could the projectionist turn on the televisions, please?
Oh, there it is. Okay. So I just wanted to give you a couple of places to...
Yeah, these aren't on yet.
Yeah, I think the TVs might be off. Oh, this one's coming up. Oh, okay.
Don't touch
Easy enough,
anything.
yeah.
Just the
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
lag.
So if you look, as I just mentioned about our fiscal policy and making sure that we are in alignment with that, we do have discussion about the unassigned fund balance, the percentages, where we are and where we look to be over the next 7 years as part of the CIP. It also discusses our debt service percentages. And it does give you an overview for all of our different funds, not just the general fund, but our enterprise funds, the water and sewer fund, as well as our parking and solid waste funds. And then, if you go a little bit further, if I make everybody dizzy, here's a schedule of, the last few meetings that we have as part of this process. And then if you want an overview of the CIP by year and then by fund, it shows you what our funding sources are each year for each one of the funds. So these couple of pages is just a nice breakdown. And it also shows you, for instance, for fiscal year 27, you can see that 12.71% of the project expenditures are projected to be from capital reserve funding. And a little bit further, this will show you what our proposed bond schedule is for any debt funding that we will need for any of the projects by year. And then Dawn is going to talk about some of the projects in Public Works, but this shows us some of the multi-fund projects, infrastructure programs that we have. And then, just wanted to show you if I can, these pages here, so I'm not, it looks like it's page 9, I think it's actually 9 through 13 in the books. But for the general fund, and this is shown for each one of the various funds throughout the book, but just using the general fund as an example, it will show you by year what our capital reserve appropriations are going to be. The first couple of pages are broken down by department. So it shows you, for instance, for the airport, the fiber optic replacement project, you can see that that is going to happen, or is projected to happen in fiscal year 2027. But this just gives you a nice overview by department as to the various projects that are included in the CIP. And then over the next couple of pages, it'll tell you by funding source, how we expect to fund the various projects that you saw in the previous pages. And as I mentioned, it's very similar throughout the book. You'll see at the beginning of each fund tab, an overview of the various projects within those funds. It talks about, the funding sources, and then within each fund, you'll also see that we have the individual project worksheets is what we refer to them as, but it shows you, it has a little narrative about what the project is, and then down below shows the schedule and the financial plan for each of those. And if nobody has any questions, I'll pass it over to the Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Carrie. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. The Community Development Director asked me to speak tonight about, I guess, a little bit about how the CIP relates to and supports the city's comprehensive master plan. So I'll be brief, but I just want to touch on a kind of high-level correlation. The way to think of this, I think, is that the CIP is the implementation tool for the master plan. The master plan establishes your long-term vision, what you want the city to look like in 10 or 20 years, where the CIP really identifies the specific infrastructure investments that are going to move us closer to that goal. And I think to that end, the CIP is strongly aligned with the 6 core pillars of your master plan. For example, a significant portion of what the Public Works program is focused on is connected mobility. For example, we have a roadway preservation program, roadway rehab, sidewalk and various trail, pedestrian and bicycle improvement projects, traffic signal upgrades. All of those speak to connected mobility, and they directly support the plan's emphasis on safe, efficient, and multimodal transportation. Of course, projects that improve streets, sidewalks, and public spaces also contribute to walkability, neighborhood connectivity, quality of place, which are the central themes for maintaining a strong and vibrant neighborhood across the city. At the same time, investments like the Downtown Infrastructure Project, Winchester Street or West Street corridor improvements, managing our downtown parking assets, the numerous airport upgrades, all of them help to strengthen the Keene's thriving economy and reinforce our role as a regional economic hub. Another major component of the CIP are projects that protect and enhance our flourishing environment. In that category, I would point to things like stormwater management, flood mitigation. There's a salamander crossing to help save and protect the Jefferson salamander up on Jordan Road. Very excited about that one. Road salt reduction initiatives, upgrades to the city's recycling facility, even planning for future wastewater treatment plant upgrades that are going to be necessary. These investments align with the plan's focus on environmental stewardship and climate resiliency. And while the CIP is primarily infrastructure focused, I think it also does advance the city's goals for livable housing and workforce, adaptable workforce. For example, we provide high-quality emergency services through investments in the fire and police department. We help attract younger workers with amenities like beautiful trail network and well-maintained city parks. For the record, I would insert here that I tried mightily to find an example of how the assessor's revaluation project supported your master plan. I got nothing, sorry. But be that as it may, from a planning board perspective, one of the most important considerations is that the CIP helps ensure that infrastructure investment is aligned with future land use framework, and that the city is making targeted investments where growth and development are desired and planned. An excellent example of that, I think, is our proposed upgrade to the Black Brook Pump Station. This project will allow for additional development and densification in a part of the city that's already been developed and built out. And it allows us to move closer to meeting those goals for housing and everything else, but while also protecting our natural resources and green space. Finally, the CIP reflects a proactive approach. Throughout the document, you'll see an emphasis on maintaining and extending life of existing assets, planning for emerging regulatory and environmental considerations, and as Kerry alluded to, using a mix of funding mechanisms to avoid spikes in either the property taxes or the utility rates. This approach supports the master plan's broader goal of building a resilient, sustainable, and economically competitive community over time. So in summary, the CIP is not just a list of projects. It is a direct extensive of your comprehensive master plan. It translates your long-term vision into specific, coordinated, and thoughtfully funded improvements. And with that, I would love to take your questions.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Evening.
Good evening.
So I see we moved the fire suppression system updates for the transfer station to next fiscal year, correct?
Correct.
What kind of a suppression system is it going to be? Is it going to be water or more like a foam or dry chem?
Thank you. So right now at the transfer station, there is an existing cistern. It's a 30,000-gallon water tank that we keep full for the use by the fire department to fight fires when we have them. The facility is also equipped with a dry sprinkler system. What's missing is the piece in between those two components, right? So when there's a fire at the transfer station, there's an automated alarm system. The fire department will get an alarm that there's a fire at the facility. They race up there with their trucks. They'll hook up to the cistern and begin pumping water from the 30,000-gallon tank into the sprinkler system. The project that we put into the CIP for FY27 will be essentially a pump and pipe network to connect those two components, and it'll be automated. Essentially, it will replace that first-to-arrive fire engine. The sprinkler system. Well, that was weird. It'll replace that first-to-arrive fire engine, and it really gives the fire department, an extra 20 or 30 minutes to establish a water supply, a tanker shuttle, or whatever's needed to fully extinguish the fire.
Mr. Cost?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've kind of have a process question. So I went to the kickoff, and I attended one of the FOP and listened to the other one on YouTube, and I came to the public hearing. And I got the sense that for the public, even at the kickoff meeting, it was pretty fully baked, the CIP. I mean, a lot of thought went into it. Obviously, each group had a lot of input and know what's needed. But by the time I got to the kickoff, I didn't, and even beyond, I didn't sense that the public would have much opportunity to influence projects, or if someone had a real serious disagreement with the project, how that even, such a fast-moving process that I didn't even see how someone could say, that's a terrible project and here's all the reasons, and say that made sense, how that would happen. And then just to add on that, I was wondering if during all of the project deciding, if you did have maybe citizens or committees involved, like Conservation Committee, who was sitting in with the group who was coming up with flourishing environment projects, or how it's more integrated with the community? Or does it happen sort of just within the city's departments and then gets presented?
Thank you, Mr. Cost. So in terms of process, I appreciate that you think it moves very quickly. For me, it's been like interminable. But, Carrie kind of explained the public side of the process. What she didn't mention is that city staff really begins working on this plan August, September of last year. So, yeah, it is true that it moves quickly once it's completed. That said, the kickoff meeting that we hold with the city council really is the start of the public process. That first meeting is really about just explaining what's in the plan, giving people time to digest it before it goes to review at FOP. Of course, the public hearing is really designed for exactly that, for the public to come express support or discontent with what's in there. That also includes, after the public hearing, there's about a week where the city clerk will accept written comments. So written comments can still be submitted through the end of the day tomorrow to the city clerk. Those will also get forwarded to FOP for their consideration on Thursday night. So any comments that are received from the public, and I know there was a number of comments received last week at the public hearing, those are all going to be deliberated by FOP next week, or excuse me, this Thursday. And then ultimately, it's the city council's decision on whether to make changes or, accept the staff recommendations and what have you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I understand there's a lot of work went into this. It's clear, so I was just, and that's what was my thinking. It was so much work and, so intertwined and interconnected that to start changing things and moving things significantly would probably be difficult starting from the kickoff. But
Mr. Madison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could just offer my thoughts on that as a former counselor through the chair. A lot of times the public will share with counselors things they want to see done in the city, projects they want to see done, and we'll work with city staff or with the city manager to make sure those get into the CIP. So just breezing through it, I saw a couple things that I had brought up when I was a counselor with the city manager, and so then that constituents had brought to me, then I brought to the city manager, and now they're, in this kind of planning document. But all that happened way last summer, so it's kind of a long-term game that goes on of people reaching out about concerns they have in the community or things they want to see done or things they want to see changed to their counselors or to the committees or to the various boards and commissions in the city. Then those committees or boards or counselors sharing it with city staff, and then city staff turning that idea into a tangible product that then winds up in the CIP. If that kind of sounds about right.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, former Councilor Madison is exactly right. That process, though, never really ends. It's not just last summer. The engineering division actually has a running inventory of CIP requests, initiatives, projects that people have asked for, that they keep, for the next 2 years, they'll be building that list. And that becomes a starting point when they begin the next sausage-making process. So, boards and commissions want to submit that information, they can do it at any time. We'll add it to the list for, trying to work into the process next go-round.
can I just follow up? I like, that all sounds fantastic, so thank you. I wonder if there's a way, maybe everyone knew that happens and I'm the only one who didn't, but if I'm not, I wonder if there's a way to communicate that maybe next time around, that this is really, it sounds like it's a public-driven process rather than department-by-department driven process, or at least they're working together, and that seemed like the missing piece for me. So that would be an important thing, because it sounds like a very positive approach. Thank you.
Mayor Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to start with a nit and then move to some more global. I'm looking for the Blackbrook water pump station. And if I elaborate while you're looking for the page, it
153, Mr. Chair.
152. You know, I liked your approach to, all right. I liked your approach to link projects and the master plan. It is obviously what this committee's primary attention, if there's logic to why we're looking at this evening, it's for that link, right? And to say, yes, this, and relative to our housing needs, I think there's a case to be made, very strong one, about this upgrade being an essential part to having the water and sewer supply that's needed for future housing on what is some of the flattest land that's still undeveloped in the city.
Yep, agreed.
Can't happen soon enough, huh? I know you've applied for a grant for this.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, you know, we did apply for a grant through a congressionally directed spending grant, you know, what some people used to call earmarks, through Senator Shaheen's office. Of course, that's not a guarantee, so it is in the CIP, and we hope to get a grant, but if not, I think it's still a worthwhile project.
Offer a couple more.
Please do. Yep.
Thank you. So, we are going to be using reserve funds pretty heavily, right, in the next few years to fund what we have, right? These projects.
Yes, we actually, we look at the capital reserves to see what is being appropriated to the capital reserve on an annual basis, and then how much we're utilizing for the various projects.
And it's, we're not at the edge of our limits, but we aren't too far from it either.
Well, it's important to differentiate between, when we're looking at our fund balance, that we're differentiating between our capital reserves, the capital reserve portion of our fund balance, and our unallocated fund balance. We look to maintain a consistent and sustainable level, obviously, in both, but we ensure that we are appropriating enough every year to cover the various projects that we have. It's all part of the CIP.
So we're staying within our guidelines.
We are. We did look, and there was, I think you'll note on, when we've talked about the debt funding, that towards the end of the CIP, so I think we're looking out fiscal year 32, fiscal year 33, those limits are getting higher. So we're going to have to kind of reevaluate, and that's why we do this every couple of years, because it gives us an opportunity to really reevaluate our funding sources and see where we are, to see if those funding sources that we had included in the plan, say for this CIP, if that's still really the best funding sources to be using when we reevaluate this in a couple of years.
And some of these funding sources get timed for when other funding sources are available.
Correct.
And when the state moves projects out 2-3 years, that's when we maybe get some flexibility because they've moved them out further. But we do need to have our dollars lined up with their funding.
Correct.
It's also true for, as Mr. Cost was wondering where projects come in, the thing about a 6-year plan is that if we execute 2 years at a time, it guarantees that there's a set of projects that are coming forward because they've already been in the plan. Yeah.
And it's, just to reiterate as well, with looking at this every couple of years, it also gives the departments the opportunity to look at additional grant resources that may come up during that time as well. So what we have for funding sources right now might look different in a couple of years when we're looking at it.
And I guess I want to add, having been in the legislature for a half dozen years and seeing, regardless of the party that was in leadership, a very usual allocation of state funds, surplus funds, back to municipalities for them to accelerate some of their projects. That spigot seems to have dried up in the last couple of years, and if there is any kind of surplus that the state has as a result of a tax forgiveness program that they've instituted, here's one place where municipalities and towns could benefit significantly to accelerate their programs, limit their debt, if the state could reinstate some of those fundings, whether that's for water or roadway improvements, both of which have been, in the last couple of years, not funded. Isn't that right?
So we do get an annual allocation from the state DOT for, I forget the provisions, the citation in the law, but we get about $430,000, $440,000 per year from the DOT, through the legislature ultimately, but for our highways, and that's based on a formula related to the number of miles of Class 4 and 5 roads that we maintain and the population of the city. But there, in recent years, I think to your point, there's been additional appropriations above those statutory appropriations, and those are I don't think they're coming back anytime soon. As you kind of alluded to, that's DOT has a similar capital improvement planning process. They call it the 10-year plan. And the most recent 10-year plan still being reviewed and approved by the legislature. But they not only didn't add any new projects to their out years, they actually canceled, I believe it was 39 projects out of that 10-year plan that got canceled entirely. Several of our projects, like West Street, for example, got pushed down the road by a year or two because of the funding shortfalls. And it relates to the cost of construction going up pretty dramatically, certainly faster than the rate of revenue increase for the state.
And I guess for one more, just.
Go ahead, go for it.
I've said before, but I think relative to our neighborhoods, strong neighborhoods, and it was in the master plan, one of the pillars that I think really came from the public's input into the master plan. And one of the things that strengthens neighborhoods is the infrastructure, the roadways, the walkways. And I think anything that we can do to improve the amount of money that we have for roadway and walkway improvements is really, that's what's going to help that pillar, walkable neighborhoods and those that are safe. And we've had a brutal winter. If there's an example for us to remind us that we need to have an ongoing program of neighborhood renewals on the streets and sidewalks, this was the winter to do that.
Okay, well, I did take the time to go through this, and it's the third cycle that I've gone through. So I have a couple of questions, but first I wanted to just preface it by saying that I think this is just an absolutely outstanding manifestation of government transparency. And I mean, the people in Keene who are interested have access to a tremendous amount of information about what the city is going to do, and I applaud you for that. But I do have a couple questions, and if I get out of my lane a little bit, I apologize ahead of time. But in terms of flexibility and process for not spending allocated money or reprioritizing, what does that look like?
So, Mr. Chair, if I understand the question, are you saying, like, what's the process if, like, city staff wanted to change the purpose of funds that are appropriated in the book?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, between the biennial versus the outer years, but yes.
Right. So, as Kerry alluded to, this is a planning document. The first year of the CIP gets incorporated sort of by reference into the operating budget. So, you know, by approving the CIP, the council won't have actually authorized us to spend any money yet. When they approve the FY27 budget, they will also be approving what's in this book for, you know, minus any amendments that they make, for the first year of the CIP. If something happens where we either say, no, we don't want to do that project, or we don't think it's a good idea, or conversely, we need a lot more money for a specific project, that would be an action that would have to be taken by the city council. So they would have to either authorize the manager to reallocate money that was appropriated for a specific purpose to go towards another purpose, or they'd have to appropriate new money to increase the budget of a project that's approved in this document. And within that, I should also mention that there's multiple funds, as we talked about, and moving money from one fund to another is an extra level of squirreliness that we really try not to do that. You know, the money that's raised from ratepayers is intended to pay for the operation of the water and the sewer utilities, not to pay for a new public park or paving or what have you.
Thank you for that. Next question I have is regarding bond issues. I know you, Ms. Chamberlain indicated that in the outer years, we might possibly get close to our debt service limit. And obviously the bond, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but outstanding debt is significantly increased throughout the length of this CIP. Can you just talk a little bit about what that means as we get deeper into debt and have higher debt servicing?
Sure. So we, as I mentioned, you know, we do, as we get closer to those years, we'll be reevaluating whether or not bond funding is the appropriate funding mechanism for that particular project. we very closely monitor what our debt service is on an annual basis. And, we may have some things that, we look ahead to see what bonds are being fully paid in upcoming years, and try to work with that to make sure that we try to keep our bond level, our debt service somewhat stable. And I think it's important to note, because those are so far out, those are the outlying years, we have a lot of opportunity within the next couple of years to really evaluate, one, if those projects are even projects that we're still going to be doing, or if they're projects that are going to be put off even further. So the entire makeup of the CIP, could change over the next few years. We do work with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. That's who we use for our bond sales. They do scrutinize, very carefully what the projects are that we are asking for bond funding for. They look at, the life of those assets as part of those projects. They want to maintain, the level of comfort knowing that these are projects that we're going to be doing within, the next few years. So when we apply for the bond funding, we have to be very specific, and we work with the various departments, to know when the funds are going to be used, because we certainly don't want to bond anything that, we're not going to be using the funds for in a set period of time. So it's a very, it's a very involved, and we're very cautious because obviously we don't want to incur any additional interest any more than we have to. So, it's kind of an evolving process over the next few years to look and see if the debt levels that we have currently forecasted for those years are actually something that will come to fruition. We will work diligently to make sure that we maintain the levels that we need to be at to be in compliance with the fiscal policy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple more, just, these are more like department/project specific, but I'll start with the ambulance. Obviously, the county has an ambulance service as well. Used to be private ambulance services, but are we overbuilding emergency services in Keene? Or should the county step up? Should the city step up? Should one of us step back? Any feel for that?
I'm not the best person to ask. That would be something I think that would be best answered by the fire department.
Yeah, no, I don't want you to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to give you inaccurate information. If you have specific questions, I can certainly get the answers for you, or put you in contact with the chief. But I just wouldn't feel comfortable answering those. That's not my forte.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, and I, with the same caution that probably is a question for the fire chief, but I am responsible for the fleet and maintenance of the vehicles, and at least anecdotally, I will tell you, the fire department has 4 ambulances in their inventory. Historically, 3 of them have been the active ambulances, and 1 has basically been a backup, and it was used when one of them was out for repairs or maintenance or what have you. Right now, and I think for the last few years, they basically are running all 4 ambulances every single day. So I would say that they are one of the heaviest used piece of equipment in the fleet. And whether that's the way it should be done, or the council wants to farm that out to the county, that's well above my pay grade.
Yeah, just curious.
If I might, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
sure.
So this has been a topic of discussion for the council. So I feel a little bit informed to be able to say, the call volume for ambulance services in the city has, over the last 3-4 years, has increased so dramatically that it's like 2/3 of all of the calls that are going out. As a result of the increase, the city added a third ambulance service this last year and added the additional staff to be able to accommodate that flow. It was necessary because the overtime that it was taking, just the staffing level wasn't sufficient. And that a vehicle would follow, I think, was just an acknowledgement of part of that plan. So it's that. And we're still facing, believe it or not, even after having added the third ambulance service, still facing overtime costs because, again, the volume, we're an aging society. And this is, I'm glad the city's in the position to prioritize this.
Yeah, Mr. Madison?
Thank you. My understanding is from my time on the council is that one of the big drivers behind the increase in ambulance calls is interfacility transfers. Historically, those were handled by Deluzio, and then the city handled some, but, mostly did emergency calls. And when Deluzio went out of business, and a lot of their contracts were taken over by Cheshire EMS tended to focus more on emergency calls rather than interfacility transfers, like from nursing home or skilled care facilities. And then that just left Keene to pick up those interfacility transfers, which has been the biggest driver in the last 3 years or so of our ambulance calls.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. I have a question regarding the solar removal from the roof of the municipal building. What are the implications of that? I mean, do we have any sort of life cycle data of what that solar array provided and
Mr.
what
Chair,
it cost?
could you tell me the page that's on?
64.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, are you referring to FY 31 City Hall second floor requires removal of solar array? So the project that's described here is not specifically removing the solar array. What it's saying is, in order to replace the roof, we have to remove the solar array.
Okay.
That solar array, as I understand it, is kind of already at the end of its 25 years or so useful life. And there's a note in here that the new array will be explored. So I think that question still remains unanswered, whether, it is viable to put in a new system for another 25-year life. I think since that solar array went in 25 years ago, there's a lot of changes to that market. The solar panels have gotten a lot better. The different ways that we can interconnect and have purchase power agreements versus owning the panels outright. The financing tools are a little bit different than they used to be. So I think that's just saying that we know we're going to have to replace the roof. We're going to have to remove the solar array as part of it.
Right, yep.
And at that time, we'll figure out whether or not it makes sense to replace it.
Okay, thanks very much. Since you mentioned the Jordan Road Salamander Crossing, and I'll couple that with the Gilbo Ave Solar Pavilion, that those are two projects that are almost 100% paid for via grants. So congratulations on the grant writers. That's great work, because those are two good projects, and I'm glad to see that we could do that on the cheap, if you will. And I had one question about the EV charging stations. Those are in the parking lot, I guess, behind, off Gilboa, and those, how many does the city run now?
Currently, there are two chargers at that location. And the program here has sort of two components. In FY '29, we have a relatively small amount of money to replace or rehabilitate the existing stations. Those are two level 2 chargers, two charging ports essentially. I think it's actually like one charger, but two ports. Those were installed in 2015 with a grant, and they were reaching the end of their useful life. So the money in 2029 would be to replace those with newer equipment. Then in 2032, and this got pushed out a little bit, but would be looking at adding additional EV charging equipment. Most likely that would be at the recreation center. This is kind of the next target where we thought it would make sense. 2020, it was either 2 or 3 years ago. We actually had a consultant come in and look at our city infrastructure, where we had parking lot locations and we had land to put them, and where charging infrastructure, public charging infrastructure, would be best useful and best served. The rec center was one of the locations that they identified as being a great opportunity for users of that facility that are going to be there for 2 hours or less to be able to charge their vehicles. So that's kind of our target for the next location. But I will also say we ended up pushing this out a little bit. What we saw is like a very, very quick adoption up to a certain level. But the existing charging infrastructure that we have kind of leveled off and even reduced in the amount of usage that we're seeing at it. And I honestly don't know if that's because more EV owners are charging at home and they're taking care of it there, or if some folks might have been early adopters to EV and decided that the drawbacks and the limitations weren't worth the trade-off in an area like ours. So we thought it was prudent to kind of give ourselves a little time to see how that trend line progresses.
Yeah, I agree, and I think in just a quote from the paragraph that you have there, continue to monitor usage trends to see what you will or won't need, and I would encourage you to do that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I think we thought that this thing was going to go straight up to the moon,
Right.
But that
Definitely
hasn't been the
plateaued,
case.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until last week.
Yeah. Things change always. Also, I think our solid waste handling in Keene is really a model for a lot of communities. It basically pays for itself, and I think it's great. And new projects, a composting project, I think is really a great idea. So
Thank
I
you.
applaud you for the activity there. And the last question I have is just about kind of public sewer and water. Am I correct in reading it that there's no plan really to expand the footprint of either of those?
The capital improvement plan does not include any expansions of the existing, geographical area where we're serving the public. As part of the downtown rehab project, we had looked at and tried to plan for expanding the system down Gilboa Ave to better serve the properties that are sort of underdeveloped on Gilboa Ave towards the west end, closer to School Street. That isn't in the plan currently. I think ultimately it's going to be the developer that comes forward and says, I'll build it if you can provide the infrastructure. That catalyst is going to be needed before we,
Understood.
invest
Yeah.
the money
Yeah,
into that.
good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Do you monitor, like, percent of dwelling units served, percent of the population served? by
We
water
do,
or sewer?
and I probably should know those stats. I don't.
Okay, but someone does.
Yeah, no,
Good.
if it's something you're interested in, we do have statistics on the number of residents that are served by the water and sewer systems versus on private well and septic.
Okay. That's all I wanted to take of your time. I appreciate your openness.
Thank you.
And as I said, to me, this is a real model of transparency in government, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Cost?
Thanks. Maybe a quick one. I was just interested on the solar pavilion project. In the meetings I went to, I heard that it will provide all of the power needed for downtown, but I didn't know what that meant. Does that mean the residences and the houses? No, I didn't think so.
No, Mr. Chair, what that means is we're sizing the solar panel on that pavilion to provide all of the city's use of electricity in the downtown area. So that includes the lighting along Main Street, the accessory uses like the Rotary puts up lights on the light poles, the sort of holiday decorations. When there's an event, they use our power, that sort of thing. So it's really the lighting and those accessory uses that we're offsetting. That said, the roof of that pavilion is about 3 times what we need just to provide that. So part of the consultant's analysis is going to be, again, looking at different funding mechanisms. Does it make sense to overbuild the solar and become, sort of a net generator of electricity? Or does it make more economic sense to size it to offset that need, offset those uses, and just be zero?
Any other questions? Well, we really appreciate your time, and we're going to move to the vote. So, do you have a motion there?
I'd like to move to find that the 2027 to 2033 capital improvement program is consistent with the 2025 master plan.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Discussion, opinions? Personally, having been slightly involved in the master plan creation, I would say that these things dovetail very, very nicely. And again, I think you guys have done a great job with that. So let's call the vote then. All those in favor of the motion that the capital plan is consistent with the master plan? Any opposed? Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry if I got too many questions in there, but I couldn't resist. Okay, next are staff updates. Ms. Brenner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the
Mr.
first item is actually going to be Paul Andrus presenting.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul Andrus, Community Development Director. This is the first time that I've been in this seat to be able to speak to you in roughly a year. So stay with me. This will be quick, but it's all connected to what you were just discussing, because this is one of the, we talked about transparency, we talked about public involvement, we talked all those things. This process that I'm going to get into tonight with your help, and then it's an iterative process. We'll be talking about how we continue to interact with the board as we move forward. One of the Oop, that's not right. Where did that go? Huh. Hang on. Okay. Why are you not opening up? Okay. We're just going to do this. So, one of the first conversations that I got into as the plan was well underway last year was how we didn't, in the past, there wasn't any concerted mechanism or mechanisms to track the progress of the plan, the last plan, and talk about the successes that and the achievements that were made toward those goals. And I think, Mr. Chair, you were speaking at the community event last year when we were reaching the end of the process, and you had a whole list that you had done your own research on, I believe, about the things that had happened over the last 15 years, something of that sort. And everyone's like, wow, that's kind of cool. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to connect, connect all of the things that are happening in the community associated with the master plan. And this is a direct response to all of that feedback that we've received. So what we're trying to achieve is, of course, transparency. There's some aspect of from community development and from the city as a whole that, we want to be able to show the public that there is really good work being done, not only by the city, but by our various partners in the community as well. We want to show progress, but we also want to celebrate those progress. And then just be mindfully in alignment with what council priorities are. And internally, this really just supports a lot of the internal coordination with the departments, Public Works, Community Development, Parks and Rec, and, getting everyone in line with mindfully in line with the master plan. And then we want to be able to be flexible enough that over time we can make adjustments, particularly as it relates to the type of data that we have access to and that we can collect. So this has to be a process that we, meaning community development and other city staff who are responsible for collecting information, we can actively manage. And then it needs to be in formats that are interesting and useful. We talk about dashboards, data, pure data. That's nice, and those things will be out there for the community. But we also want to look at ways to interpret the information and present it and create a narrative that will be more apt to pull people in who wouldn't maybe not necessarily be looking for this information. So these are just some examples that we put out, but there's actually quite a bit of data that we can be tracking under all of the different pillars of the master plan. But these are just some examples that we just pulled together. And I think you heard through the CIP process that there's going to be projects that are going on that we will show as we move along. We'll show progress, and we just have to look at what those measurements of progress will be. Keeping it visible. Again, these are just some ideas that we've thrown out, and that's kind of why we're here, is to get some feedback starting tonight, and then as we move forward. How do we want to do this in terms of getting this information out to the community? Is it, internal updates, updates to council, updates to the commissions and committees that we have? Is it an annual public report? What is, from an outreach perspective, how do we want to look at this? Do we want to talk about what's the status of the master plan as a community event or part of a community event? And we have other examples of this, and I think some of it's actually pretty cool. And Mary, as I'm sitting here, the one example, just that one example we talked about, was it from
Yeah, so are you talking about the story map?
the story map? Well, so we're actually, our staff are working on this concept called a story map, and the way that I can describe it to you is if you go on like New York Times and you get into an article that you click on, and then as you scroll down, it starts bringing images in, and it presents information in a way that kind of really draws you into it. We would be looking at some similarities to that, which would also have a lot of GIS-based information, like visuals, mapping, just a variety of different information that could, like I said, just tell the narrative in a way that's interesting to people. But we had one town, and there's many actually, but one in particular we were talking about, and I couldn't recall.
Sure. Yeah, so Montpelier, Vermont has their entire master plan in a story map format. And we also have if you go to the KeenMasterPlan.com website, there is actually already a story map for the master plan that's really geared towards when it was nearing completion to get community engagement. And so, yeah, I think it's a really great tool for storytelling and displaying data in a way that's more engaging than just like a spreadsheet with numbers.
But we'll still have the spreadsheet with numbers, though, so don't worry about that. So we wanted to talk to the planning board just about what the potential roles could be. We wanted to tie this in with you all. Tonight's a good example. We're already here for an hour and a half. We want to be able to sit and have conversations with you, so we'll have to be strategic about that as we report on progress, as we talk about how we're going to be, what the types of narratives that we're putting out there, where we're putting it out there, and get that feedback from you all in terms of how that's all proceeding. But, looking at, again, policy guidance, how do we want to do this? Is it annual, semi-annual? What should we be looking at, like, in the community that might point to an issue or a success indicator? And, not just informational, but meaningful. So again, just start simple, build over time, use existing data, and from the department head's perspective, align with staff capacity. That's really huge. I think we don't want to make this so convoluted or so complex that we're not managing it appropriately. So some questions: what would the board want to see? What kinds of information is most useful to you? How often should we check in? The role of the planning board, and and just those things that you think would make this more valuable than just another report, and or just a piece of paper or something that we put on our webpage. And these are questions that perhaps, if there's anything specific that comes, that's from the top of your mind, we can talk about. But I would also welcome some feedback after this meeting and as we move forward, as we build this. And we'll have some examples, as we talked about, storyboards, dashboards, those sorts of things. We'll have those examples that we'll be producing. And, then just ask for additional, just have you all be part of that process. So that's all I have tonight.
Director Andrus, is there some way you could maybe shoot that deck out to us so that would stimulate our input?
Yes, Mr. Chair, absolutely.
Thank you.
And we can provide some links as well to some of this information that we would. I just didn't want to start plastering this discussion tonight with all of that.
Yeah, I think that would be a great way to start. Mr. Cost?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This all sounds fantastic and can't wait. I know when we were developing the master plan, and maybe it's in here and you're doing it or we'll do it, but there's that whole, it's almost like a checklist of goals and objectives and lots of things to do. And will that will that sort of be the guide of, are we progressing on those things? And some of them are going to be done by the city staff, and others might just hang out there because no one's going to do anything about them. And maybe we can get people or committees to adopt some of those goals. I don't have them in front of me, so I can't remember them. But it was a pretty great list, and priorities, when they'll be done, and maybe progress on those so that they don't, and maybe that's what this will all be. But I think that was the basis of the goals and objectives.
Yeah, I think you've uncovered the complexity of this process, and that's why it's going to be somewhat of a challenge, I think, to make some of the, to identify some of the higher priorities or within each goal, which we have done actually, of those, because it wasn't by one goal, goal 1, 2, 3, it was 1 and 4 were actually the ones that people, when they were surveyed, said those were the most important. So we're going to do a little bit of that piece, but yes, the short answer is yes, we're going to use that document, that of the breakout of pillars, goals, tasks. I'm not sure how it was broken out, but that's, and certainly look at the implementer or the partners who might be doing that, because it isn't just the city. It really isn't. That's, and we want to make sure that, that folks know that, and it's also that part is also going to be the challenge to get, to be able to collect the information. It's going to be a little bit easier if it's just city stuff, but, but the committees will help us as well. It's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right.
Well received. I see you also have New Hampshire BEA 2026 Spring Planning and Zoning Conference.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is really, I think it's page 30 of your packet. So just a note for you all that there is a free training available. This is virtual, and you can also go to that webpage, and at your own time, you can view the recordings from past years. And so it's really great training if you want to just get an overview of the basics. And they also, I think last year did a track that was focused on housing. Sometimes they'll do a track that's focused on historic preservation. So sometimes they'll do more specific topics. So just wanted to make you aware of this resource. Obviously, the benefit of attending live is you can, I believe they do like a Q&A session. But otherwise, you can always just watch recordings.
Yeah, and I've done it a couple times through the planning track. I highly recommend it. Hint, hint. Okay. We also have in our packet a letter from Southwest Region Planning Commission regarding the sort of bad news 10-year transportation plan. So I see it says we should read it, but is there something we should, other than commenting back to them?
So
Is there an ask with this letter?
the way thank you, Mr. Chair, really quickly, I think if you look at the very last paragraph of the letter, it kind of goes into, reaching out to your elected representatives if you're concerned about this and have ideas for ways that the state could address it. I think specifically it says you and your town may or may not think that adjustment to toll fares or the gas tax would be acceptable trade-offs for making the tip financially whole. Either way, if this issue is important to you, there's still time to weigh in. So what I'm reading into that is they're suggesting that if we, as a city or as the planning board, think that the state should look at ways to fund the tip, that we could reach out and make that case.
Okay. I'll have to give that a little bit of thought. I'm not sure how we coalesce around a position as a board. But. Counselor Ellis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it all right if we write in on our own, just out of interest, like even, not representing the planning board, but just personally?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks. I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be a conflict.
It's America.
Yes, for now.
Mayor Khan?
Yeah, I guess I appreciate the question. It's an interesting thought to have a resolution come from a planning board to say this just is not moving the needle fast enough. The West Street project, for instance, is pushed off to state funding to fiscal '32. That was scheduled for '29, and similar kind of thing for Winchester Street. And when we talk about what are our arterial roads, we've got like 5 or 6, and those are two.
Yeah.
And it just, the funding isn't there, but that's what the legislature's responsibility is to make sure that the funding is there and these delays don't become hazards.
Ms. Master Giovanni?
It seems like with dealing with anything to do with the state, that if we don't stay in the loop ongoing, because there's always so many years in advance that we have to plan for any funding, and it always seems like our side of the state sort of gets put on the back burner. So like, especially in terms of transportation, if there's things that we need to think about doing, we just need to do it several years in advance, and we need to stay on it, otherwise it's just gonna keep falling off.
Okay, well, I'll talk to staff and maybe we'll figure out a discussion with SWPC and maybe to generate a resolution that could be, people could get on board with. Mr. Mayhew?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I went to 2 of the Gasset meetings, which discussed the 10-year plan. And in the research that I did, it kind of seemed as though all of the federal aid that the state was getting from like COVID era, the planning for post-implementation wasn't as great. So like Keene kind of got lucky in that like we kept a lot of our projects, whereas like other local projects were just axed from the 10-year plan. So I think they said that the tolls, I don't think they've been adjusted since like either the late 2000s or mid 10s. So do what you will with that information, but
Well, good perspective, but I think if we want something, we should figure out how to ask for it. Ms. Master
Just for
Giovanni?
a quick example, I've been the Greyhound agency for like 20 years. And most of that is being funded by states around us. Vermont, transportation, Massachusetts, they have money for transportation. New Hampshire, we don't pay in, so we don't have as much funding. But I don't know exactly what's going on now. We were at risk of losing our public transportation in Otta Keene, like, I don't know if anyone was around back when that was going to happen, but it was within maybe 10 years ago. They were going to stop coming through Keene at all, period. But it was because of monies coming from Massachusetts and Vermont, where they continue to travel through our state. We're really limited on public transportation. And if we're going to try to maintain it or keep it or try to stay in the loop, because Mass and Vermont might drop us all together, we have to ask for help well ahead of when we need it, is what I'm finding out.
Mr. Cost?
So I guess it's appropriate, could we, a few people, maybe not the whole board, but whoever wants to or cares, enough to spend some more time, meet with JB Mack, and also they have the new transportation coordinator, who's very, very knowledgeable. She's getting up to speed really quick. And just maybe sit down and work with them, because, you know, they're so deep in the weeds on this, and they may help us really understand how it's affecting Keene, instead of trying to invent it from, you know, ourselves. And that might, even if it's just a, you know, hour meeting sometime in their office, a couple people who would like to craft the letter for the board. But I think to start one from scratch would be hard, but they could probably really help us.
Yep, I think it's a good idea, and I will take that as an action item. Okay, moving on to new business. Any board member have new business they would like to introduce? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to the upcoming dates of interest. So, Joint Committee of the Planning Board and PLD, April 13th, 6:30 PM. Planning Board Steering Committee, April 14th, 12 noon. Planning Board Site Visit, April 27th, if needed. And next meeting of the Planning Board, April 27th, 6:30 PM in these chambers. And I'm going to, since they printed on a second page, take the prerogative to skip the more time items and move to adjournment at 8:22 PM. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you getting there.